He was a single man with a quiet life until a late-night call made him the unexpected guardian of 5 broken siblings. What started as a temporary arrangement turned into a life he never saw coming, and a family he couldn't imagine living without. It was a gray Wednesday morning in downtown Pittsburgh. Rain drizzled lightly, casting reflections on the brick streets, and traffic hummed in the background like a lazy orchestra. Nathan Briggs stood silently under a small awning in front of a repurposed church building, the kind of place that now served as a venue for charity events and community auctions. His tailored overcoat couldn't mask his million-dollar demeanor, even though he tried to blend in. Nathan had made his fortune in tech, co-founding a cloud security startup that sold for $84 million just 2 years ago. At 39, he had everything a man was supposed to want: luxury condos, a private jet subscription, and his name in glossy magazines. But today he wasn't here for anything material. He was here because something inside him felt off, hollow. He wasn't religious, but he couldn't shake the feeling that life had more to offer than spreadsheets and stock options. Inside the auction house, the air buzzed with noise, bidders raising paddles, auctioneers rattling off numbers, and the occasional clap when someone walked away with a vintage dresser or antique painting. Nathan was just about to leave when he overheard something odd. Next item, lot 42. Not furniture, not art, but, well, you'll see, the auctioneer said, his voice skeptical. The crowd turned as a woman from social services stepped forward, her face stiff and professional. Behind her stood 5 kids, siblings. The oldest couldn't have been more than 15, the youngest barely 5. They looked nervous, underdressed, and out of place, like orphans in a Dickens novel. "This is unconventional, folks," the woman explained. "These children have been in and out of the foster system for years. No relatives left. The city's struggling to find them a home together, and we hope someone here might be interested in helping or donating to support their future." Some people chuckled. One guy muttered something sarcastic about adopting a whole basketball team. Nathan watched, stunned. This wasn't an auction. It was a cry for help dressed up in formality. He watched the kids, how the oldest boy instinctively stepped in front of the others, protective. How the middle girl kept her eyes on the floor, hugging a tattered stuffed rabbit. No one raised their hand. The auctioneer awkwardly cleared his throat. "Well then, shall we move on?" "I'll take them," Nathan said. Heads turned. The room went silent. "I'll take all 5, he repeated, walking forward. The social worker blinked. "Sir, this isn't a purchase. This is a legal—" "I know what it is," he said calmly. "Let's talk." No one laughed now. They just stared as Nathan Briggs, millionaire tech mogul, knelt down to speak to the kids like they were the most important investment he'd ever make. The following week was a whirlwind of paperwork, home inspections, and raised eyebrows. The social services office wasn't used to someone like Nathan Briggs. Most potential foster parents had years of background checks and parenting classes under their belts. Nathan had a penthouse and a LinkedIn profile. Caseworker Denise Harmon, a sharp-tongued woman with reading glasses and a no-nonsense bun, wasn't about to let him off easy. "You do realize these are 5 separate human beings, not some philanthropic PR stunt?" she said, slapping a thick folder on her desk. "I'm not interested in PR," Nathan replied calmly. "I'm interested in keeping them together." Denise narrowed her eyes. "You have no parenting experience." "I built a multi-million-dollar company from scratch. I think I can handle bedtime and school runs." "That's not the same thing," she muttered, but didn't object further. It took 2 months of legal evaluations, home visits, and private interviews, but Nathan passed every check. He converted his vacation home, a quiet, sprawling property in a Pittsburgh suburb, into a fully equipped family house, complete with a minivan, bunk beds, and enough cereal to stock a grocery aisle. The first night the kids moved in was quiet, awkward. Ben, the oldest at 15, kept to himself, barely speaking. He spent most of the evening sketching in a tattered notebook. Samantha, 13, and Chloe, 11, were quiet but observant, eyeing Nathan like a science project they weren't sure would explode. Jesse, 8, and Mikey, 5, were more open, running around the living room, amazed by the flat-screen TV and the massive backyard. Nathan didn't try too hard. He didn't pepper them with questions or force hugs. He simply made grilled cheese and tomato soup, then asked if anyone wanted a bedtime story. Mikey shyly nodded. Nathan read Where the Wild Things Are in a voice that surprised even himself. Later that night, while cleaning up the kitchen, Nathan stared at the stack of dirty dishes and felt something unexpected: peace. A deep, quiet sort of contentment that all the luxury and business deals had never given him. The next morning, everything changed. Ben refused to come down for breakfast. Samantha snapped at Mikey for humming too loud. Jessie spilled orange juice all over the table, and Chloe sobbed quietly in the hallway because she thought she lost her school backpack. Nathan stood there, barefoot in sweatpants, clutching a peanut butter-covered knife like a white flag. It hit him. He was completely unprepared, but he didn't back out. He took a deep breath, cleaned the mess, found Chloe's backpack in the laundry room, and drove everyone to school in the minivan he swore he'd never own. That night, while Nathan was loading the dishwasher, Ben appeared behind him. "You don't have to pretend, you know," Ben said, voice low. "Most people don't last more than 2 weeks with us." Nathan turned and met his eyes. "I'm not most people." Ben looked skeptical but didn't argue. He just went upstairs without another word. Nathan stood alone, hands in soapy water, wondering if he'd just lied or told the truth for the first time in his life. 3 weeks into their new life, the cracks started to show. Not in the kids. Nathan expected that. Trauma didn't just disappear because someone offered you a nice house and new clothes. No, the cracks showed in him. He'd faced boardrooms filled with hostile investors. He'd negotiated contracts that spanned continents. But nothing prepared him for 5 kids yelling at once about whose turn it was to control the TV remote. Samantha refused to eat anything but microwaved mac and cheese. Jessie had nightmares nearly every night. Chloe carried her stuffed rabbit like a security blanket, even to school. Mikey wet the bed twice that week, and Ben barely spoke. But when he did, it was always something sharp and cold. "You think you're saving us," Ben had said during one tense dinner. "You can't buy a family, man. We've seen people try." Nathan didn't flinch. "I'm not buying anything. I'm offering you a place to stay where no one splits you up." Ben had dropped his fork and stormed off. Later, Nathan sat alone in the den with a glass of water, staring at a photo of his old company's launch day. Everyone in the photo looked so full of purpose. Lately, he just felt tired, overwhelmed. Still, he got up early the next day, made breakfast, packed lunches, helped Mikey tie his shoes even though he could barely tie his own tie. He showed up, even if he didn't always get it right. One night, Pittsburgh was hit with a powerful thunderstorm. Wind howled against the windows, and lightning lit up the sky like a strobe light. The power went out just after 8 p.m. Panic hit fast. Chloe clung to Samantha, crying. Mikey crawled under the couch cushions like they were shields. Jessie ran from room to room calling for help. Nathan found Ben by the back door, flashlight in hand, staring at the storm like it was something familiar. "Don't like the dark?" Nathan asked gently. Ben didn't look at him. "I'm not scared of the storm. I'm scared of what happens after it." Nathan nodded slowly. He didn't push. Instead, he gathered everyone in the living room, lit candles, and pulled out his phone for music. Thankfully, it had enough charge. They sat on the floor, wrapped in blankets, eating granola bars and telling stories. Nathan made up a ridiculous tale about a superhero dad who couldn't cook but always saved the day. Mikey laughed so hard he fell backward onto a pillow. Chloe eventually stopped crying. Even Samantha smiled a little. Then something unexpected happened. Ben added to the story. Just a line, barely louder than a whisper, but it was there. Nathan didn't call it out, didn't make a big deal. He just smiled and kept the story going. The storm passed after midnight, and power returned with a flicker and hum. The kids were fast asleep in sleeping bags around the couch, like some chaotic, beautiful campsite. Nathan watched them and realized, storms didn't always destroy things. Sometimes they cleared the way for something new to grow. A month after the storm, the Briggs household had settled into a rhythm. Not a perfect one, but real. Mornings were a blur of cereal bowls, backpack checks, and missing shoes. Evenings were a mix of homework struggles, chore assignments, and Nathan's determined but often disastrous attempts at home-cooked meals. But one Thursday night promised to shake it all up again. Parent-teacher night at Mill Creek Elementary. Nathan stood in front of the bathroom mirror, adjusting the collar of a shirt he hadn't worn since selling his company. He looked like someone who had their life together, even though his heart was racing. He could pitch to investors, sure, but talking to teachers about 5 traumatized kids, that was new territory. He arrived at the school just before 6 p.m. The parking lot was packed with minivans and SUVs. Inside, parents huddled around bulletin boards and student artwork displays. Nathan spotted Jesse's name under a colorful volcano drawing and smiled. A small hand tugged at his sleeve. "Jesse." "You came," Jesse said, beaming. "Wouldn't miss it, buddy," Nathan replied, squeezing his shoulder. They made the rounds. Chloe's class had an art showcase. Samantha had a science poster on invasive species. Mikey had glued macaroni into what might have been the solar system. Teachers were polite but curious. "You're the guardian?" one of them asked. "Yes," Nathan said. "Officially now." Some offered kind word, others raised brows. But one teacher, Mrs. Everett, Ben's English teacher, pulled Nathan aside. "I wanted to talk to you about Ben," she said softly. Nathan braced himself. Here it comes. He's smart, really smart. His essays are sharp, thoughtful, but he doesn't turn things in on time. He stays distant in group work. Today he left a writing prompt blank. The title was, "What Family Means to Me." Nathan nodded slowly. "He's figuring things out. I understand, but I think he's waiting to see if this is real, if you're real." Those words stuck with Nathan the rest of the night. On the way home, he tried to engage Ben. "Your teacher says you're a good writer." Ben shrugged. "She says a lot of things. I read your essay about the book banning issue. You made some great points." Ben glanced at him, surprised. "You read that?" "Every word." Ben didn't reply, but the silence felt different, less guarded. Later that night, Nathan stood in the doorway of the shared bedroom where Jesse and Mikey were already asleep. Chloe and Samantha were whispering in their room down the hall. Ben sat at the kitchen counter, writing in his notebook. Without looking up, he asked, "You ever think about quitting?" Nathan stepped in and leaned on the counter. "Every day, but then I remember why I started." Ben tapped his pen, nodding slightly. "Same. It wasn't a breakthrough. It wasn't a movie moment, but it was something." That night, Nathan didn't sleep well, but he didn't mind. The house was full of quiet sounds, footsteps, creaky floorboards, the hum of the fridge. Not noise, life. And for the first time, it felt like a home. Spring had crept into Pittsburgh, bringing with it early sunrises, muddy sneakers, and the unmistakable hum of lawnmowers in the distance. Nathan was learning that fatherhood didn't come with a manual, but it did come with an ever-growing list of dates to remember. One of those dates was fast approaching, Chloe's birthday. She was turning 12, and Nathan wanted to do something special. But when he brought it up over breakfast, she froze. "We don't really do birthdays," she said, avoiding his eyes. "You do now," he replied gently. "We're making this one count." That set off a whole series of reactions. Samantha rolled her eyes but didn't object. Jesse asked if there would be cake. Mikey wanted balloons. Ben, as usual, said nothing. But Nathan noticed the way his grip tightened slightly on his fork. Nathan reached out to Denise, their social worker, for advice. "Trauma kids don't always respond well to celebration," she explained. "They associate parties with disappointment, with people forgetting, with promises that don't last." Still, Nathan pressed on, carefully. He let Chloe choose her own cake, vanilla with purple frosting. He asked each sibling to make something handmade for her. No big party, no strangers, just them. The night before her birthday, Nathan stayed up late in the kitchen, frosting the uneven, lumpy cake himself. The writing on top was crooked and slightly smeared. "Happy 12th, Chloe." The next day, Chloe came downstairs to find the kitchen decked out in purple streamers and paper flowers. A small box sat on the table. A charm bracelet Nathan had picked out, with 5 tiny charms. A heart, A bunny, a paintbrush, a star, and the word hope. Chloe stared at the bracelet for a long time before whispering, "It's perfect." They ate pizza and cake at the dining table for the first time as a family. Jesse did a silly dance that made everyone laugh. Samantha gave Chloe a handmade sketch of the two of them. Mikey proudly presented a crayon drawing that featured Chloe as a superhero. Even Ben handed her something, a small folded poem. Chloe read it silently, then hugged him hard. He looked uncomfortable but didn't pull away. Later that night, Nathan tucked Mikey into bed. "Do we all get birthdays now?" Mikey asked sleepily. "Of course," Nathan said. "What if you forget?" Nathan leaned down. "I won't. Not ever." Across the hallway, Chloe came into the kitchen holding her bracelet. "You didn't have to do all this," she said. "I wanted to," Nathan replied. She nodded, looking thoughtful. It felt real, like we were a real family. Nathan's throat tightened. "That's because we are." She walked over and hugged him, quick and quiet, but real, just like she said. After she went to bed, Nathan sat alone for a while, thinking about the bracelet, about how something so small could mean something so big. And for the first time, he didn't feel like he was pretending. He felt like a dad. Summer break was a week away, and the Briggs house was buzzing with energy. Jesse and Mikey were already planning a lemonade stand. Chloe wanted to try summer camp. Samantha was angling for a phone upgrade in exchange for good grades and zero drama. But Ben was drifting again. He was spending more time outside, hanging around the edge of the backyard near the tree line. Nathan had tried engaging, inviting him to help mow the lawn or grill burgers, but Ben always had one foot out energy, like he was already planning his next escape. One evening, Nathan found him sitting on the fence at sunset, hoodie up, sketchbook in hand. "You know that thing's gonna snap under your weight," Nathan called from the porch. Ben didn't look back. "Let it." Nathan walked over and sat on the grass nearby. "Want to tell me what's going on?" Ben didn't answer at first. He kept sketching, quick lines, dark shading. Finally, he said, "We've been through this before. People step up, play house for a few months, then they disappear." "I'm not disappearing," Ben scoffed. "They all say that." Nathan took a breath. "You're right to be cautious. You've been hurt, but that doesn't mean I'm lying." Ben closed the sketchbook and finally turned to face him. "You think just because you've got money and a big house, that makes you better than the others?" "No," Nathan said, "but I've got one thing they didn't." Ben squinted. "What's that?" "Time. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not bouncing back to some bachelor life in Manhattan. I chose this. I chose you." Ben's eyes narrowed, skeptical. "Why?" "Because I saw a group of kids trying to survive a world that let them down. And I realized I didn't want to just watch. I wanted to be the difference." Ben looked away again. "Words are cheap." Nathan nodded slowly. "Then give me the chance to prove them." Silence hung between them for a long while. Then Ben finally climbed down from the fence and handed over his sketchbook. "Don't lose it," he muttered. Nathan opened it after Ben walked inside. The first few pages were random doodles, then portraits, each sibling captured in incredible detail. Jesse mid-laugh, Chloe hugging her bunny, Samantha painting her nails, Mikey riding a scooter, and then, on the last page, a sketch of Nathan. Not perfect, not flattering, but real. Nathan smiled. Later that night, Nathan knocked on Ben's door. He was already in bed, pretending to sleep. "Your art's amazing," Nathan said. "When you're ready, I'd love for you to help me redesign the upstairs office. Make it into something we can all use, like a creative space." Ben didn't respond, but the next morning he came down for breakfast early, made eggs, for everyone, didn't say a word, didn't need to, because sometimes trust isn't spoken, it's built in silence, one brick at a time. And Ben? He was finally starting to lower the wall. By mid-July, the Briggs house finally had its own rhythm. It was messy, loud, and constantly unpredictable, but it worked. There were early morning cereal spills, backyard water fights, and quiet movie nights where Mikey always fell asleep before the credits rolled. Nathan was starting to feel confident, like maybe, just maybe, He was getting the hang of this parenting thing. But life has a way of testing you just when you think you've passed the exam. It was a Thursday afternoon when it happened. Nathan was in the garage fixing Chloe's bike, Samantha was blasting music upstairs, and Ben was sketching under the tree out back. Jesse and Mikey were inside coloring at the kitchen table. That's when Jesse screamed. Nathan dropped the wrench and sprinted inside. Mikey was on the floor, clutching his stomach, his little face twisted in pain. He was pale and sweating, eyes squeezed shut. "He was fine 5 minutes ago," Jesse cried. "He just said his belly hurt and then he fell." Nathan didn't hesitate. He scooped Mikey up and ran to the car. "Jesse, tell Ben we're going to the hospital. Stay with your sisters. I'll call." The hospital was only 15 minutes away, but it felt like an eternity. Mikey's breathing was shallow. He whimpered with every bump in the road. Nathan kept one hand on the wheel, the other gripping Mikey's tiny fingers. "Hang on, buddy, I've got you." At the ER, everything became a blur. Paperwork, nurses, doctors, flashing monitors. Nathan kept pacing, running worst-case scenarios in his head. Appendix? Allergic reaction? Internal injury? When the doctor finally came out, Nathan stood up so fast he nearly knocked over a chair. "He has acute appendicitis," she said. "We'll need to operate tonight." Nathan nodded, blinking fast. "Will he be okay?" "Yes," she said. "You got him here just in time." They wheeled Mikey off for surgery, and Nathan was left alone in the sterile hallway. The silence felt unbearable. 2 hours later, Denise from social services showed up. Protocol for emergency medical situations involving foster children. "You handled it well," she said, after Nathan brought her up to speed. "I was terrified," he admitted. "Good," she said. "That means you care." When Mikey finally came out of surgery, Nathan was allowed to see him. He looked impossibly small in the hospital bed, hooked up to IVs, snoring softly under sedation. Nathan sat beside him, exhausted, but he didn't leave. Around midnight, his phone buzzed. A text from Ben. "He okay?" Nathan replied. "He's going to be fine." A minute later, another message. "Good. Everyone was scared. Samantha made soup, even though no one's eating it." Nathan smiled. He put the phone down and looked at Mikey, whose fingers were still curled tight around the blanket. For the first time in years, Nathan felt like part of something bigger than himself. Not a team, not a company, a family. And no matter how scary, exhausting, or chaotic it got, he knew he'd never walk away. Mikey was home within a week, a little groggy, moving slow, but proudly milking the attention. Jessie became his personal nurse. Samantha kept adjusting his pillows and brushing his hair back. Chloe made get well signs and taped them everywhere, even in the fridge. Ben pretended not to care, but was always nearby. Nathan watched all of it quietly, heart full. By late August, summer was winding down, and back-to-school shopping loomed. The living room was filled with mismatched backpacks, piles of notebooks, and at least 6 different arguments about whose pencils belonged to whom. In the middle of the chaos, Nathan got a call from Denise. "Are you sitting down?" she asked. "Should I be?" She laughed. "The court finalized everything this morning. It's official. You're not just their guardian anymore, Nathan. You're their legal father." For a moment, he didn't say anything, just stared at the wall where the kids had hung a crooked photo collage. Smiling faces, sticky fingers, bent frames. Chaos. Love. "Thank you," he said softly. He didn't tell the kids right away. He wanted to do it right. That weekend, he planned a small celebration in the backyard. Nothing flashy, just grilled burgers, paper lanterns, and a few close friends. The kids helped string up lights between the trees, and Chloe insisted on using her own playlist this time. After dinner, Nathan stood up in front of them all, hands awkward in his pockets. I have some news," he began. The kids looked up from their marshmallows. "It's official," he said. "You're not just under my care. You're my kids now. Legally, permanently, all of you." There was silence for a moment. Then Mikey, with sticky marshmallow fingers, shouted, "Wait, like forever, forever?" Nathan nodded. "Forever, forever." Jessie tackled him first, laughing. Samantha wiped her eyes quickly and muttered something about allergies. Chloe burst into tears and clung to his arm. Ben didn't move right away, but after the others had calmed down, he walked over and extended a hand. Nathan looked at it, confused. "What's this?" Ben smirked. "Just seeing if you'll shake before I do something dumb." Nathan took his hand, then Ben yanked him into a one-armed hug. "You're all right, Briggs," he muttered. "You're not so bad yourself," Nathan replied. Later that night, after the lanterns had gone dim and the kids were asleep, Nathan sat on the porch watching the stars. The quiet no longer felt empty. It felt earned. He remembered that first night, standing alone in a house too big and too quiet, wondering if he was crazy for thinking he could handle 5 broken hearts. Turns out they weren't broken, just bruised. And maybe so was he. But together somehow, they'd healed. Not into a perfect picture, but into something real, something loud, messy, stubborn, and fiercely loyal. Something that looked, sounded, and felt a whole lot like family, forever. Nathan never set out to become a father, but when 5 siblings in crisis came into his life, everything changed. Through late nights, messy mornings, and moments of quiet understanding, they built a bond stronger than blood, one forged by choice, love, and resilience. What started as an act of responsibility became a lifelong commitment to family, proving that sometimes the most unexpected chapters become the most meaningful. If this story moved you, consider supporting foster care and adoption organizations in your community. Every child deserves a safe, loving home, and you might be the answer to someone's forever. Share this story to spread awareness and inspire others to open their hearts.